Hello, my dear student. Today, again, I am going to discuss Unit 4 of Financial Management and Corporate Finance. In this PPT, I will cover dividend. The term dividend refers to that part of the profit of a company which is distributed by the company among its shareholders. Actually, this is the reward of the shareholder for the investments made by them in the shares of the company. The investors are interested in the earning the maximum returns on their investments and to maximize their wealth. A company, on the other hand, needs to provide funds to finance its long-term growth. If a company pays out as dividend most of what it earns, then for business requirement and further expansion, it will have to depend upon outside resources such as issue of debentures or a new shares. Dividend policy of the firm thus affect both the long-term financing and the wealth of the shareholders. As a result, the firm's decisions to pay dividend must be reached in such a manner so as proper distribution of profit and retained earnings can be made. My dear student, you know very well, dividend is the right of the shareholder to participate in the profits and the surplus of the company because they are the real owner of the business. The value of the firm can be maximized if the shareholder wealth is maximized. Generally, there are conflicting views regarding the impact of dividend decision on the valuation of the firm. My dear student, both dividend and growth are desirable. As you know, both are conflicting goals to each other. Now, there are the different types of dividend policies. Regular dividend policy, stable dividend policy, irregular dividend policy, regular dividend policy. In this type of dividend policy, the investor gets dividend at a normal rate of return. Stable dividend policy. Here again, the payment of certain sum of money is regularly paid to the shareholder. It can be divided into three parts: constant dividend per share, constant payout ratio, that is 20, 30, 40%, and the stable rupee dividend plus extra dividend. Irregular dividend policy. Here the company does not pay regular dividend to the shareholder. Whenever the company find out any opportunity, they can retain the profits of the company and they did not distribute profits to the shareholder in the form of dividend. No dividend, the company may use this type of dividend policy due to the requirements of the funds for the growth of the company. Now, there are the two theories of the dividend: relevance of dividend and irrelevance of dividend. My dear student, according to the one school of thought, dividend decision does not affect the shareholder wealth and hence the valuation of the firm. On the other hand, according to the other school of thought, dividend decisions materially affect the shareholder wealth and also the valuation of the firm. And this can be divided into two parts: relevance of dividend and irrelevance of dividend. Relevance of dividend again divided into two parts: Walter's model, Gordon's model, and irrelevance dividend comes under the category of Modi Miglani Miller approach. Now let us discuss one by one. First is the Walters model. Professor Walters' approach or, or Professor James E. Walter has developed a theoretical model which shows the relationship between dividend policy and common stock. The model operates on the objective of maximizing the shareholder wealth. According to this model, dividend decisions are relevant and affects the value of the firm. The relationship between the internal rate of return earned by the firm and its cost of capital is very important in determining the dividend policy of the company. Professor Walter's model is based on the relationship between the firm's return on investment and the cost of capital. According to Mr. Walter, if the firm earns a higher rate of return on its investment than the required rate of return, the firm should retain its earning. Such firms are termed as a growth firms, and the optimum payout would be zero in their case. This would maximize the value of the shares. In case of the declining firm which do not have profitable investment, the shareholder would stand to gain if their firm distribute its earning. And in the case of the normal firms, the dividend policy will not affect the market value of the share, as the shareholder will get the same return from the firm as expected by them. There are certain assumptions of the Walter models. The first one is the investment of the firms are financed through the retained earnings. Retained earnings are those earnings or the part of the profit which are not distributed among the shareholders, and the firm does not use external source of the funds. The internal rate of return and the cost of capital of the firms are constant. Earnings and dividend do not change while determining the value. The firm has a long life. Now let us discuss the formula for calculating the value of the dividend. P equals to market price per share of common stock. Then RA is the return on investment, RC is the market capitalization rate, E is the earning per share, and D stands for the dividend per share. Then you have to divide it with RC, that is the market capitalization rate. Now let us discuss with the help of an example. Suppose the return on investment is given in the question is 12% and equity capitalization rate or the market capitalization rate is 10%. Earning per share is rupees 4 and the dividend per share is rupees 2. Then you have to put the values in the formula. The market price per share would be 2 plus 0.12 divided by 0.10, earning 4 minus dividend 2 again divided by the RC, that is the return on investment. The answer is 44. And the dividend rate is 50%. Earning per share, how you can calculate the amount of 2? 4 of 50%, that is rupees 2. Now in the next case, if 0% dividend is paid, share price will be calculated as follow. Here in the 0, why the 0 will come? Because we are not paying any dividend. That's why 4 minus 0 and the rest of the things are same. Now the market price of the share is 48. Calculate if 100% dividend is paid. Now whatever the company earned, that is the earning per share is 4. The 4 rupees paying as a form of the dividend. Then the price of the share is 40. Now our next model, that is the dividend growth model or the Gordon's model. Gordon has also developed a model on the lines of the Professor Balt's, suggesting that the dividends are relevant and the dividend decision of the firm affects the value of the firm. but they are the sudden assumptions on which the governance model is based. The firm is an all equity firm. It means there is no debt capital in the capital structure. No external financing is available or used. If the company is not using any debt capital or taking a loan from the outside, then only they are issued the equity share capital. The rate of return on the firm's investment is constant. The retention ratio, but whatever the company has decided once, remains constant. The cost of the capital for the firm remains constant. The firm has a long life and the corporate tax rates are not exist. In the case of the Walters model, uh, we have discussed that there are no taxes in the same way in the Gordon's models, there are no taxes. This is a formula of Gordon's model. E bracket open 1 minus B K E minus BR. E stand for earning per share, B stand for the retention ratio, KE stand for the capitalization rate or the cost of capital, and B stand for the growth rate. In R, that is the rate of return on investment of an all equity firm. B multiply R. Here R means the rate of return. Let us discuss one by one with the help of an example. Now we have to calculate the market price of the share of LML Limited. Cost of capital is given, that is 11%. Earnings are given 20%, and rate on investment is given 12%, 11%, and 10%. The market price is determined if the B stand for the 90, B stand for the 60, and B stand for the 30. Now, first you can understand what do you mean by the B. B means the retention ratio. First we will do the question if the retention ratio is 90%, then 60%, then 30%. Rate of return is 12% and retention ratio is 90%. We have to do the calculation right now. Now my formula, if you will see it, please write down in your notebook. It is E. E stand for earnings. Earnings 1 minus B R. E stand for earnings. Earnings means 20. The 20 is given. 1 minus B. B means retention ratio, that is 90%, 0.9. Then KE, that is again given, that is the cost of capital, that is 11%. Then BR, how you can calculate the BR? This is very, very important. B means retention, B means retention ratio, and R means rate. Now you have to do multiplication of this, that is now when you multiply 12% with the 90%, we will get 108. The answer is 1000. Again, now calculate retention with the retention ratio of 60%. The answer is 210. In the first case, the answer is 100. In the second case, the answer is 210.52. I have already explained earning is 20, then 1 minus retention ratio, that is 60%, that is again divided by 11%, then multiply by 11% into 60%, you will get 0.072, and the answer is 210. Now the next one is the retention ratio is 30%. PR is 0.03. It means 30%. Then you have to calculate with the help of 30 multiplied by 12%. Again you will get 0.036. The answer is 189. I have already explained how to do the calculation. In the first question we have used a 12%. Now we will do same question with a 11% rate of return, then 10% rate of return. The same thing again, 90% at the rate of 60% and 30%. Only the things which are going to be changed is the BR. Now the BR is totally changed. This is 11%, but in the previous it is uh, 12%. Now it's 11%. Below 11 is remain the same thing, uh, because the cost of capital or the equity capitalization is 11. That's why 11 will come. Only the change will come in the BR only. You can see this one. Only the changes come in the BR, nothing else. Now, approach. This approach is given by the Modi Miglani Miller. In his article, he said that dividend policy does not affect the market price of the share, uh, and that investors are indifferent to the dividend and the capital gains. So, dividend have no effect on the valuation of the share. They also said that the value of the firm is determined by the earning power of the firm's asset or its investment policy. There are the certain assumptions. First one is the presence or existence of the perfect market with a rational investor. There will be no flotation cost on the issue of the share, no taxes, investment policy of the firm not subject to change, and perfect certainty by every investor as to future investment and the profits of the firm. There are the certain factors which are affecting to the dividend policy. We will discuss one by one all of them. I have written here only 5 factors. There are maintenance of the reserve, existence of the earned surplus, cash needs of the company, need for the growth and expansion, steady and stable dividend policy, and others. I will discuss one by one. The first one is the maintenance of reserves. Maintenance of reserve means various reserves for a different purposes are needed for the efficient running of the company. Reserves for the depreciation, working capital, bad debts, dividend equalization, taxation, debenture redemption, preferential redemptions. These all are very common for a company to keep apart. Whatever is left, the surplus left is available for the dividend only. The next one is the existence of the earned surplus. A company cannot pay the dividend, my dear, out of the capital. Dividend is payable out of the current profit or accumulated profits of the company. It can be paid after providing the depreciation as per Companies Act. Then the cash need of the company. Cash position is a big criteria to pay the dividend. For a company, cash is needed for various contingencies because the future is uncertain. Nobody can predict the future. They cannot be ignored for the survival of the company. So, dividend policy has to be made after a serious consideration of the cash position of the company. Needs for the growth and expansion. A company quite likely is brought into being not to remain static. It is to grow and expand. For this, cash flow must exist. Every available amount cannot be spent for the payment as a dividend to shareholder. That will restrict the scope for its growth and expansion. Many companies follow orthodox dividend policy and provide for a liberal plugging back of profits into the business, and these retained earnings are utilized for the expansion and the growth as a source of internal finance. The last one is the steady and the stable dividend policy. An ideal dividend policy rests on the principle of the stability and steadiness. Attractive dividend rate after providing for reasonable, regular and stable income should be aimed at. Regularity of the dividend depend upon the stability of earning. If the earnings are stable, then the company will pay the dividend equalization reserves and other free reserves. That's all for today's lecture. Thank you. Thank you very much, my dear students.